Hello, hello. Happy Monday. Happy afternoon. It's gloomy where I am. So I never know how these live streams are going to go, and I always just get so nervous, but I do have a message that's coming through pretty strong for a lot of you. And let's just go ahead and get into this. You guys are so cute in the comment section. Okay, the first thing that I'm supposed to say, and I've tried to get around saying this in this way because to me it sounds so cheesy, but I think a lot of you have been maybe petitioning Ramana and like wanting to work with Ramana, and I'm supposed to do this and just say that the hand of Ramana is outstretched to you. There's been some kind of shift in the energy or something. This was kind of the point of this situation. The ultimate outcome is for him to actually offer you like his darshan or his hand for a lot of you. I think a lot of you have been connecting with that space or really trying to make that connection, and he's just saying like, yes, this was the point and we've reached some kind of like pinnacle here. And I think that's where this message is actually coming in, is like, let's all understand these things and let's debrief this together. And I will say that I think there's a small group of people here that maybe did something like extremely heinous or said something extremely heinous, and I do feel this energy is still offered, but it's kind of under a stipulation that's like, but we need to understand this. And it's a little bit on pause, like with that very, very small group that are wanting to come out. And honestly, I've got my notes here because this is one of those messages where there's so much information for me to keep straight, and I just didn't know if all of this was going to flow together. So we're going to go ahead and get through this. So, all right, this involves... So we're revisiting a third-party situation, surprise, surprise. And this is a third-party situation, or it is a situation that brings up some level of comparison and competition. I really feel like for a lot of you, this is a romantic situation, but also this could be some kind of professional situation. And if you really think about this, because the reason this is coming through right now is because I started to sense that there's some kind of energy that's like surfacing and it's kind of showing its head. And I could see that it was a major player in this situation, but that we always can't see it directly, which is hearkening back to the Leviathan readings that I've done recently. And it's giving Pluto. And that's what this reading does, center around Pluto, because Pluto likes to remain hidden, but it's the hidden power in this situation. And it is deeply subconscious. So this is a situation that Pluto has actually been moving beneath for quite some time, but there's a divine timing aspect to right now. It's like the stars are very much aligning. This feels like a very destined moment where this Pluto energy has kind of surfaced. And I feel like this Pluto energy was triggered in the original situation here. And you may have acted in a way, felt something like very strong and acted in a way that, you know, there was a lot going on here and possibly like a lot of carnage and catastrophe and confusion. And now that we're processing this, I feel like recently, boom, this Pluto has been triggered again via some kind of tower moment where some kind of aha moment came in or some kind of realization or something was said or something was done. And it's uplifted this Pluto energy again for it to be looked at and for it to be examined, because this group or these kind of conditions harken back to past lives where there was very heavy karma that was playing out. And I strongly feel like this involves a death, like at least one death for divine feminine energy. I've picked up on that multiple times. I don't think there was just one death on her behalf. I think that you've had multiple shots at this, and something about this energy has come to a close. And I really feel like this has to do with her understanding her worth and value, but also understanding that there's certain things that are the same here, that it's like, okay, well, all people have these kinds of energies, but she doesn't deserve a certain kind of treatment. And so I feel like her energy has actually like left this situation, and it's shifted things in this dynamic, and it's caused a lot of things to start unfolding differently. And part of that is there's a certain group here that needs to start addressing this plutonic energy within themselves first and foremost. And they also need to start addressing this plutonic energy within the group. They need to basically be not policing the group, but just holding people accountable. So when certain nasty things are said or done, it's not conspiratorial and held in and made excuses for. It's just very calmly, like, we don't do that here. And if that's not going to happen in this group is going to dissolve, it's going to break apart, and these people are going to be reassigned to different groups that can and will do that for them, because this energy is unacceptable and this energy is done, because it's been the root cause here of this situation with very, very heavy karma here in the past. And karma, of course, means right and proper action. So in order to clear the karma, and there's always some level of spiritual lesson that comes through with karma, we have to be taking right and proper action. And I feel like the challenge in this particular situation where there's third-party dynamics, you know, levels of competition, active Plutos everywhere, is that it's very hard to take right and proper action because everything is so confusing. And that's kind of what I want to talk more about. So We're revisiting the dynamics of this third party. Some of you, I think, sussed this because one quality of this is that everybody involved in this situation, A, has an active Pluto in this situation, but B, and this is very interesting, is that everybody involved in this situation can very clearly see everybody else's Pluto in this situation moving very clearly. And Pluto is the part of our psyche. You can think of it like a dark little pocket, that we like to stuff all of our like darkest traits in, and our fears, and even like our dark impulses, the part of us that wants to be selfish and maybe doesn't want to think about if what I do hurts you or the next person, or maybe I even want to cause harm to you for some reason, or maybe it's a point of weakness and embarrassment, like I feel really hurt or I feel really sensitive, and I'm embarrassed by that. So all of those things get just shoved down into that like dark little pocket at the base of your psyche. It gets zipped up, it gets locked up, and then you say to Pluto, and remember, Pluto is the death impulse, and you say to Pluto, look, I don't want to be these things, and I never want to feel this way again. Please kill off these energies. And Pluto says, okay. But it is the nature of death that Pluto can't just erase it. It doesn't just erase, right? It's always a transformation. So Pluto starts breaking down those energies, which does in fact change the original energies. It's breaking it down, and it's kind of like distorting it. It's this little fermenting compost pile at the bottom of your psyche. And when it's triggered and when it's active, that compost process starts, which ferments, and it starts to off gas, right? And that gas starts to build up, and it starts to create a pressure. And that pressure has got to go somewhere. But the reason that Pluto is doing this for you is to psychologically protect you. This is psychologically protective. You're saying, I don't want to be these things. I don't want to feel these things again. But Pluto can't fully kill it because these things are true, like they really did happen. Or if it's a trait-based thing, these are natural traits like in our world or in our psyche that are there for a reason. So it can't fully ever get rid of it. So Pluto agrees and says, all right, well, I can't disturb, this person. We've got to find a different avenue for these things to come up through. And that's what's going on here in this situation for everybody involved, right? So we have this distorted Pluto energy trying to find some level of release. So I forget where I was kind of going with this. I can tell that this is like getting a little bit choppy, and it's hard because it's hard for me to like kind of grab a hold of this Pluto energy. So it's moving beneath this situation, and everybody's Pluto. Oh, I get it. Everybody's Pluto is triggered, and everybody has an easier time seeing other people's Pluto. So they can see people's fear. They can see people's desire to control the situation, desire for power, or like maybe darker impulses. And so when you look out at the situation and you're trying to navigate that, and you can see that energy leaking out in another person, but they can't see it themselves. But you think that they can see it very clearly themselves. And that creates a very difficult situation. And what's furthermore is if you're trying to navigate this situation and your Pluto is very much active, there is something that you want in this situation, and you're trying to Pluto strategically navigate this situation, you're factoring in other people's Plutos. And because other people's Plutos are active, this is a high stakes kind of situation. So you're kind of very alert and you're very focused, but your Pluto is also active. And you have the hardest time seeing that. And I feel like most people in this situation have not kind of factored that into equation because they didn't realize their Pluto is active. They didn't know where to look. And that's what this reading is in particular about. So the right and proper action bit, how do I navigate the situation with right and proper action, actually becomes a little more difficult because your Pluto is distorting what you're seeing in other people and what you're seeing in yourself. So there's a lot of missteps here. So if you do navigate the situation the same way you did in past lives, is looking, you can see everybody else's Pluto, and so you're trying to kind of navigate around it. It's this kind of explosion energy. It's also got the energy of like a vice, like a Chinese finger trap where you put it in there and then you try to pull and pull and pull, but you're just more stuck. It's this vice energy. The more you struggle against it, the more stuck you are, and it's confusing to you. And it's because the point of this entire situation is to trigger your Pluto and to have this come up so that you can actually be confronted and see this Pluto energy and deal with it head on and do the shadow work. Then and only then can you take right and proper action in the situation. Then and only then can you clear the karmas here in this situation. So this is a tough one because everybody here is probably a very plutonic person. Pluto is a very interesting energy because people either love that energy or they hate that energy. It's very like, it can either repel or really like draw you in. And there's elements of that here. You might have had that with a lot of different people. You feel very drawn in and you feel very repelled here at different times. So let's just get a couple of like the, okay, so here's we're going to describe this third party situation. Sorry, there's so much information that I'm getting, but understand Pluto is moving beneath the situation and every person's behavior involved here. This is a third party situation, but there could be more people involved. And I strongly feel that there are more people involved in this. But even if there are more people involved, there's still 3 positions on the field. And not to confuse you, but there's actually 4 positions on the field, but one of them's like over here, and I don't really want to talk about it too much. I'll touch on it, but there's like the 3 different positions. So even though there's multiple people, they're fitting into one of these kind of 3 categories or positions, and it does very much have to do with their Pluto and how their Pluto is expressing in this situation. Pluto is very active and triggered for all parties involved, whether you can see it or not. That is the spiritual point of the situation. It's to pull up this plutonic content for everybody that is involved. And not only that, but now something has been said or done, or it very shortly will be said or done, that's going to trigger your Pluto. It's going to have some kind of aha moment, and that's when you can see this kind of hidden element here. These dynamics are corresponding exactly to situations from past lives that have this extremely heavy karma. So, all right. So moving in, okay, so Pluto we've already talked about, and the Pluto is moving beneath the situation, right? But there's another layer here atop that situation, which is the more surface level. And we have described this before, and I think even recently in one of the readings that was coming out. And I feel like I feel like the natural starting place. Anytime you're trying to understand a third party situation or a situation that has heavy competition elements, it makes sense to start at your differences. And I feel like if you're trying to work through this situation, you probably have started there. What distinguishes me? And that is a central theme here for everybody involved. What distinguishes me? So you think about, well, I'm this in this situation, this person's that, and so therefore I deserve more attention. I also feel attention is another big thing that's being fought over here. All this is plutonic stuff. It's attention and it's power, because regardless of if this is romantic or if this is professional, because your boss has to notice you to get a promotion, and your boss has to value you in order to give you the promotion. Somebody's got to notice you in order to be in a relationship. They've got to value you in order to decide that you're the person that they want to partner up with. So attention, even if you feel like you've got a healthy relationship with attention, it is a kind of currency in our world. So you probably look out at a person who's very opposite to you in the way that they move with their Pluto, and you kind of think, well, why are they getting attention? And it triggers you, because you might even feel like something's being taken from you. And again, everybody's Pluto is kind of brought up here. So we're going to start there with, okay, well, this makes me different. And the energies that are moving that way, we've talked about multiple times, and that is Venus and Mars. Now you can see where this is getting kind of confusing, because this is a third party situation. So it's not a different energy for every person on the field. There's these 2 energies. This is part of the confusing parts. There's these 2 energies that are actually at play here, even though there's multiple positions and the ways that so that makes it hard to kind of decipher this situation. I'll tell you what I mean. So we've got the Pluto energy that's running beneath. That makes sense because Pluto is subconscious. But the more conscious level, we've got these Venus and Mars energy. That makes sense. These are personal planets, and by and large, personal planets are much, much more conscious. There are different things that can happen in the chart that make them hard to see and less conscious. Tasha, thank you so much for the super chat. But by and large, they're much more conscious. So these are the energies that you are going to identify, right? First and foremost, that are active in this situation, and they're different from one another, and it's Venus and it's Mars. So let me just switch over here. So man, I feel off my game all of a sudden. Like this is like the least smooth I've been, but I feel like it's because of that like strong Pluto energy that's coming through. Now, actually, there's one more thing that I want to say before we get into the superficial, the surface level energies here. And that is that I want to talk about a manipulative personality. Thank you so much to the Bayou. Okay, let me just take a second here. I don't know why I'm so nervous and why this is so choppy. Maybe this is a part of, maybe you feel choppy in the situation, and everybody else does too. It's like usually you're fluid, but in this situation there's been a wrench thrown in it, and now you're like, I don't understand why this is not coming through, and then you feel self-conscious. There is definitely a layering effect, like some kind of building effect that they want to draw attention to as well. Now, going back to this Pluto energy also really quick, because when you're trying to navigate the situation using the tarot, and somebody like me is tapping into this situation, and you don't know which energy is which, and you don't know kind of like the way that it's going, and you're trying to figure that out, and I'm saying, yeah, there's manipulative traits that are very active here. This is where it kind of gets difficult to parse through, because Pluto is the part of all of us that has those darker impulses and that can be very manipulative in order to get its kind of like selfish aims, but it's subconscious. It stays beneath the level. So let's talk about personality here really quick, because having a Pluto is a very normal thing, and exhibiting manipulative behaviors, right? And the neutral definition of the word manipulation, which if you're trying to understand how your Pluto is moving through this situation in a way that you can't see, this is a very good question to ask yourself, which is, where are you dexterous? Because the real definition of, or the neutral definition of manipulation is to operate with dexterity. So where are you very dexterous? And that goes to these energies that people are very conscious of, I feel. So that part of you is very different than having a manipulative personality. Now, that word personality has a very specific meaning in the field of psychology. It means a long-standing pattern of behaviors, traits, thoughts, emotions that once you reach adulthood hold pretty stable over time. So somebody that has a personality, and that in astrology, it corresponds to very conscious parts of the chart, okay? Your ascendant and your sun energy. So it's not, your personality is not the total person. It's not even the total mind. It's not the total psyche, right? But it's a very conscious part of the psyche. And it's exactly opposite that Pluto energy, because where Pluto is all the things that we stuff away, we don't want to own, our personality is the part of the psyche that we very much associate ourselves with. I'm this kind of person. I'm that kind of person. And these two are arguing within each individual here at this current time, because this Pluto energy has been drawn up. But that personality is pretty much stable. So if you have a person here who, generally speaking, has a pretty healthy, stable personality, and that's most of the people in this situation, believe it or not. There's like one or two very bad eggs, but that's most of the people in this situation. Then when their Pluto gets active, it's a very shocking energy. Internally, it can be a tower moment because you're like, I'm having this very strong emotion that I don't associate with myself and I don't usually have, and I don't know where it's coming from, and I feel attacked because I'm feeling it. It's that kind of shocking energy. But it can also cause them to do something that is very out of character, and it shocks somebody else, and then that's going to trigger their Pluto. So that's what's going on here. And that is a very different situation where somebody is seeing that activate in a person. And you can see that like kind of darker energy move to a long-standing pattern of manipulation. And I bring that up because, like I said, I do feel like there is a person here who does have this like whole ass manipulative personality, is very aware of what they're doing. Their involvement in this third-party situation is not plutonic, meaning it's not flying under their subconscious radar. This is par for the course. There is a person here, I think possibly two people here like that, one on the feminine side, one on the masculine side, but like very much at different times. And coming in for different reasons, et cetera, et cetera. But there are people like that here. Their involvement in this kind of energy is to do with, they like the competition. They have a Pluto in the situation, but their Pluto is something different. And they're kind of the oddball here, so I don't exactly want to talk about those people too much, but that's very different than having the manipulative personality. Those people do. Most people here have a Pluto that needs to be active in the situation because it's leading them astray in terms of the right and proper action here, okay? So now we understand that plutonic energy, right? This is the energy that's trying to come up through one of these more conscious energies. And it's a place within each person that they're actually very dexterous. They're so comfortable, they're so fluid in their movement that the Pluto energy actually can hide very well in that energy beneath conscious awareness. Okay, so, and these energies are Venus and Mars. Now, the other thing that everybody in this third party situation, every single person has in common is that at some point in their childhood, they felt abandoned, neglected, rejected by the mothering energy. I think it was actually a mother. And it's this perception of that. It was this feeling of it. And that all occurred beneath conscious awareness here as well. It's not like the child was meaning to, or that they were trying to have a power play. They just at some point really did feel that way. And there's a lot of ways to bring that up. I mean, it could actually be literal abandonment where there's a physical abandonment. It could be a financial abandonment, emotional abandonment, just even, I don't know, there's just a perception of it or the threat of it. Every child here has, when they were a child, had to deal with that. And they had different ways that they coped with that. And they also had different methods that worked in order to bring that attention back to them and to also rebuild like the approval from the mother figure. And that's where we see these Venus and Mars energies. And I bring that up because this reading is all about peeking beneath the surface. So when we look at the Venus and Mars, it could be easy to think that the most beautiful person in the room is the Venus energy or the Mars energy, because Mars tends to be very sexy, very well-formed. So, but that's not necessarily the case, you know, or to say the woman is the Venus and the man is the Mars. That could be true. I think it's probably true for most of you. It's not exactly the case. We've got to kind of peek below the surface. And the peek below the surface is that whoever is the Venus person and whoever is the Mars person in this, I feel like these were the coping mechanisms that had to do with this, with bringing this mother energy back around. So this Venus person, whenever they would feel abandoned or rejected, they would double down into this Venus energy. They would get more sweet. I actually think that this is more, I I think it's the rarer coping mechanism. It doesn't exactly make sense, but it could be that mom was very dramatic or erratic. Mom was very, maybe the child in the relationship, and this person had to be more of the decision maker or something here like that. But this person got sweeter. It's very like, oh, no, it's okay. Really, it's fine. It's totally fine. Even when it wasn't fine, but they were scared to hold a boundary with mom because they were a child and they needed her support and her love and her care. Yeah, so that's like that Venus person. I'm sorry, there's some kind of energy that's trying to like get into this reading, that maybe doesn't want this to come out. I don't know. I feel like I'm pushing against that headwind a little stronger in this reading. So yeah, with the Venus energy, that's like that one person. With the Mars energy, this person, whenever mom would feel like abandon them, this is very much giving crisis energy. So they would get in a fight with her or get in a fight at school or get in a fight with their sibling. This is also very body energy. It's very physical energy. So it's, could be Mars rules over like burns and cuts and things like that. And also, the physical body, as the child started to get old enough, I feel like this could have been schmegdual energy, like maybe a pregnancy or something. Is that crisis energy that would always bring mom back, her attention back, but it would also bring back her love and approval, because it could be like, oh, well, you're in a crisis, so I need to be like sweet or gentle or something here like that. So that's the Mars person. I think that there's more Mars people here actually than the Venus person. And I think it's harder for the Mars people to see themselves as the Mars people, because they're not quite, it's like they equate, both of these groups I think equate love with crisis, but it's like the Venus energy is used to having crisis all over them and like, oh, no. And then the Mars person's used to creating crisis and then receiving some kind of like love or attention in exchange for that. And that's how they learned how to build and maintain relationships. And that's what each of these people think that they bring to the table in regards of relationships. Does that make sense? Like, okay, well, I'm the smoother. And then this person's like, well, I'm Mars and I'm courageous and I'm daring and all of those things. Now those are the two primary groups. And I do feel like this is like the couple, these people that are very much drawn to each other. One is very Venus and one is very Mars. Now I want to talk about this third group here because this is a bit of the outlier. And I think that this is where people get a little confused. And maybe this has been a trigger for some of these people's Pluto in kind of realizing this. And this is where I'm strongly getting Aquarius energy for this third group, which is friend. It's broader network. It could even be somebody that doesn't belong in this group, but they're fixated on, I think, both of these energies, whether it's the feminine or the masculine. And so they want to associate with this kind of energy, but it's a very strong Aquarius energy. It's broader network energy. And these are people that are supposed to be karmically, their right and proper action in this situation is to recognize that they are supposed to be friends and that they are supposed to be a part of the broader network here for these two people. But their Pluto gets triggered because I do think that there's a strong attraction to one of these people because they want status and schmegs from one of these people, and they want friendship and respect from the other one. They actually like both of these people on some level, but because they're so schmegally attracted to one of these people, and part of their abandonment from a mother figure, they always felt different, they always feel strange, they always felt weird, and they don't know how to work on that within themselves to where they have that strong sense of self and that they're okay. So instead they want to try to get status and approval, because these two people that are part of this couple, it's very center of gravity. It's very sun energy. I think these are kind of like, it's giving popular kid, even though I think for both of these people, I have read these cards for a long time and I feel like it's ugly duckling energy, that turns into the swan. So I don't think they see themselves like that. And I actually think both of these people are actually very friendly and they're very accessible here to these Aquarius people that are not used to, these Aquarius people kind of feel like, oh, wow, finally I have my chance. Like there's a person that's out of my league and I find to be very physically attractive. Their personality is great. Everybody likes that person. And that person genuinely cares about me. That person genuinely connects with me. We are genuine friends. So remember I told you that this Pluto energy is trying to come up through these like more superficial energies. So, and it says, well, this Venus energy is saying, I'm Venus. I'm loving and I'm kind and I'm cooperative. So that's why I deserve the attention here, right? And then Mars is saying, but I'm strong and independent and schmegdual and courageous and determined and daring. So I deserve this over here. And Aquarius is saying, well, I'm a friend. I'm the friend. So therefore I deserve romance. I deserve to be in a romantic relationship because I'm the friend. Did you catch it? The hypocrisy? I'm the friend. This is very, I'm a nice guy kind of thing, right? I'm a nice guy, so I'm entitled to the schmegs. If you are a friend and therefore you deserve genitalia, you're not a friend. That's not friend energy. That is, you want something out of it. That's the Pluto being triggered. And I got to be very honest with you. The Mars and the Venus person here, they have no problem being friends with each other. They're friendly too. It's just they saw each other and they never a day in their life wanted to be friends because they're not meant to be that for each other, right? But this other person is very much a friend, but this is where they actually, remember I told you there's just the two energies that are coming through here, Venus and Mars. So this Pluto they need to understand that they are not Venus. Because they feel friendly towards this person, they feel like this person's very kind. They think, oh, this is Venus, this is equal, this is reciprocal. Are you showing up in reciprocal energy? If you cannot be friends with a person that you find attractive, you can't be neutral. Because what's triggering the Pluto here is seeing the attraction between these two. It is seen by these friends. And they can see these two people's Pluto in the situation, but they're not seeing their own. That their own Pluto has an agenda. And it is codependency. I think it is to, instead of, again, coming up and saying, I feel strong within myself and I'm going to work on being a genuine friend because I can see these two like each other. And just because someone's nice to me or whatever, like it doesn't mean like whatever. Instead, they're like, this is the shortcut. This is devil energy. This is the shortcut to me being cool, to me being accepted, right? And there's a delusion in this because they want like the status and the schmegs from one of these people, and this person doesn't want to be with them in that way. I think even if there's some kind of short-term energy here, it's not ever going to be like what they see happening and shaping up here between these two people. And they actually do like this other person, and they want friendship and respect. So they've got to subtly sabotage, and this is all very subconscious. They have to sabotage these people's relationships and the way that they view each other, at least for a time, until they feel that they can ingratiate themselves with the other person. And then in their full delusion, they feel that they're going to come back around, and this other person is going to be their friend and just accept that they think that they can kind of steal the energy from the other person, literally steal their destiny and say, I'm going to be in the couple that you were in and I'm going to receive this social attention that you were in, instead of saying, I feel like a weirdo or I feel like an outcast. And instead of saying like, thank you God, like I have nice friends here that are loving and accepting to me, they're in this sabotaging energy. So part of the plutonic thing for like this friend group, this like friend position here, is that they have to accept that they're not Venus in this situation. They have to actually learn what it is to be a friend. I think their Pluto is as well like, oh, well, people don't really like me because whatever superficial thing, I think they see the superficial thing in this Mars and this Venus. And so it's like, well, I'm not, because I'm not pretty enough or I'm not rich enough or whatever. Look at the way they're behaving. This is not nice. This is not friendly behavior. It's incredibly selfish, and they have a subconscious goal to sabotage this. That's why people don't like them as much. It has nothing to do with the superficial thing, but Pluto's trying to protect them to do with the superficial thing. And it's not that they're not likable. It's just that they have to see their Pluto, and they have to see that they feel insecure and that they feel abandoned. And I think the irony is that the way they get the schmegs and the status that they want is through these people, not individually, together. I think if they are a friend that actually supports these two people together, because these two people are actually targeted by people that want something for themselves, want something, but they're safe actually with each other, and they each have the thing that the other person needs. So if they support this relationship, it's actually very helpful. And these two create a center of gravity that's going to suck some people in here, people that's going to be good for this friend. So that's part of the Pluto that's coming up here for this friend, but they're showing up in the Mars energy. So they're actually over here in this Mars group. So that's what I'm saying is I think there's actually a lot of Mars people over here, and there's like one Venus person, if that makes sense. And it does make sense because the Venus energy, it's not exactly a natural outlet for the Pluto energy to work through, but Mars and Pluto have a lot in common. So Mars coming up through Pluto, that's a very different energy because they are both malefics. Mars is the lesser malefic, and Pluto is like the malefic, right? Mars is very selfish. It rules over war. It rules over competition. It rules over cuts, burns, lethal action, blood. And Pluto rules over death and trauma and strategy and all of that. So it kind of like makes a little bit more sense. So with that being said, so that group kind of goes over here into the Mars. Also, like this fourth category that I don't really want to really touch on, that's like an extremely devious person, also comes in on the Mars side. It's just that that quality is not in their Pluto. Their Pluto is aggression towards the mom, because I feel like for that group, they also felt rejected and abandoned by their mother, but there's something already going on with the father. So the father was the overtly wrong parent. I feel like this is, I'm strongly getting a feminine energy for this, but I also feel like there's a masculine potential here as well. That person also felt rejected and abandoned by the mom. But I think the father was the obvious a-hole, like absolutely left, caused a divorce, an affair from the family. So, and I think that child wanted to protect the mom, but then also felt rejected and abandoned from the mom. So they have this they actually want to protect the mom, but they also feel intense anger towards the mom. So they have this thing where they would like to destroy women, I think. But that Mars-Pluto energy that's coming up through a feminine form, that's coming up through Venus, it's going to look very different. It's going to be very strategic. It's probably going to come off butter wouldn't melt in their mouth kind of an energy, but they know exactly what they're doing, and they're very aggressive, and they are meaning to wound in this situation. If this masculine is going to harm this feminine and then try to run away, that's exactly who he's going to run into. If there is a masculine here that's in that energy, this man is dangerous. Okay? Just straight up dangerous. This is lethal force. It's violence. The R word, it's violence. And I think he's less strategic. But if you've got a group here that is subtly in their Pluto energy, is jealous of this Venus, wants to see this Venus knocked, or just has some kind of like hidden darker impulses, towards sadism or something, then they may well just turn a blind eye and allow that to go on or something here like that. Okay, so getting back to this like Venus-Mars energy. So they're conscious aspects of self, right? The Venus is, they think this is the way that they think of themselves, right? Cooperation, giving, sharing, compromise, beauty, value, exchange, making other people happy. And their shadow is actually these Mars energies, where this Mars person, their conscious self is courageous and endurance, fight, this assertion, daring kind of energy. The problem with that is that they're playing with lethal energies. They're playing with huge energies. These people carry a huge hammer, but they look out and they can see the Pluto energy moving through this Venus energy. They're like, they want power. And part of the reason why the Mars energy is so threatened by the power of Venus is because it is the power of Venus. Because remember, these Mars people felt abandoned by their mom. And they wanted true love and cooperation. They just don't know how to receive it. And I feel like that's what it is. Like, I really want love, but I don't know how. And I feel scared to drop my guard because I'm used to being like the fighter, and I'm used to being strong and daring and courageous. But being soft, that doesn't make sense to me. But I want love, and I kind of know, and I want to reveal myself to you. And Venus has no idea that this is going on. That they have this level or this kind of power over the Mars person, because the Mars person feels that in the Venus person. That the Venus person is available to be in relationship with them, and feels maybe even like they are owed this. They don't know how to do the dance, right? And so feels very threatened by that. And I think that they maybe want to be assertive, or they want to introduce competition in. It's very, very atrocious energy that's coming through here. But it's fight or flight. It's a coping mechanism. Because this is the way like these people are kind of coping, if that makes sense. Because the Venus person is very merged with their Venus energies. They have a conscious identity of themselves being Venus. The Mars energy is very consciously merged with the Mars energies. Their self-identity is centered around that Mars energy, so much so that it's second nature. So when a crisis happens, like their Pluto is triggered, they double down into that, and then this Pluto energy can kind of get out. Now, I feel like the Mars energy makes more sense when it comes to that. Like, it's pretty obvious they're going to be selfish. They're going to be strategic. They're going to be courageous and daring. And by the way, that's what this friend is telling themselves. This friend that wants something more and their Pluto is very active, they're like, I just need to crash in, I just need to crash in to the middle of these two people. And whoa, this is so weird. I'm having deja vu right now. I'm having deja vu where somebody was yelling at me for saying that for talking about this friend energy. And I was like, but they're not being a friend. Like, that's the whole point. I'm trying to like talk about that. This is so weird. I'm having such strong deja vu. Anyways, I'm just trying to outline what I see going on here, because Pluto is so hard to see. And it's not about blaming anybody, because we do all have a Pluto. But we have to be able to see it. And this situation is meant to kind of like draw this out. So yeah, this Mars energy. So this friend, like I said, they're like, I must be assertive and I must be daring, So it's this ambushing energy where they're going to take a shot or a pass at one or both of these people, either schmegally or aggressively. And they're going to say it's for true love, but it's not. It's coming from a place of lack and scarcity and fear, and feeling not good enough. And oh my gosh, if I miss this person, if I miss out on this person, then I'm never going to have like this kind of a person, ever again. So I feel like everybody here is talking like right past each other. And basically this is like a coping mechanism. And this Venus and Mars energy for both people, it's designed to be in that fight or flight mode. So, if you've listened to my readings, I'm getting checked in this moment, because especially with the Mars energies, because they're using such big energies. This is the body. This is schmags. This is aggression, physicality, competition. I get angry because I can see that this Venus energy, basically Venus as a coping mechanism, is the first person to walk in the room and just show their wrist. Just like, hey, and we're all fine, because the Venus person is trying to control the situation, and they're trying to use their Pluto to do that, but they're trying to freeze everybody, and they're trying to convince the Mars people, we can just kill our Mars. We don't need Mars. There's no need. I'm not your enemy. Even to this friend who's trying to rival them, they're like, don't come at me, bro. Like, I'm sweet. Like, you don't have to do that. And they are trying to control. But the thing that the Mars people don't understand is that they don't know what the Venus person wants. And that's what the Venus person doesn't understand with that Pluto coming through. Because Venus, it rules over what it is that we want. So when we're expressing our Venus, we're naturally expressing what it is that we want. When you've got Pluto there, Pluto is control and it's hiding things. So the Venus person is kind of hiding what it is that they want, maybe, or how it is that they want to achieve it. So the Mars people over here are sensing that Venus wants something and that Venus does have power, but they kind of don't know what it is, but they think they know what it is. Each of these people thinks that they know what it is. And I kind of think a lot of these people are wrong. And they might all agree that, oh, this Venus person wants this thing, or they might all have different opinions of what this Venus person wants. But either way, I think a lot of them are wrong, because I think Venus wants to maintain the status quo. Can sense, remember I told you everybody else can see the Pluto energies moving through here. Venus can see the Pluto energy active in this other people. At the very least, they're sensing it. And it's even more dangerous for Venus because it's coming up through Mars, okay? Malefic, malefic, malefic. That's another thing I want to point out here is, yes, everybody's got a Pluto in this situation. I feel like these Mars people need to hear that. That is absolutely true. But let's not pretend that there's any level of equality between these two. Because Pluto coming up through the Venus person, that looks very different than the Pluto coming up through the Mars person. This is an absolute hammer to this person. And they're like, well, I feel justified because I saw your Pluto. And that's your Pluto and that's my Pluto. And it's like, yours is Pluto plus Mars. Yikes. Okay, like it's just not the same. So Venus, I think what Venus actually wants is maybe to take their power back, but they also kind of want this control because Venus is used to being ambushed, I think, by the mom in some way, by the mom's feelings or something. And they're always the one that has to repair the relationship, and Venus is tired. So Venus is like, let's get out there. Let's keep the space. You know, you don't have to be Mars, right? And they're desperately trying to control that. The way that I want to describe this Venus energy and the way that the Pluto is coming up through this, okay, and this is just my perception of this. Obviously, I don't know these people, but remember the Jennifer Aniston, Brad Pitt, and Angelina Jolie situation from back in the day? Think about Jennifer Aniston, okay? Like, I feel like again, I don't know her. This is just me making an assumption, but I'm just trying to communicate these energies that I see. Think about her, like, especially back in the day and at, like, the height of Friends, right? She's on top of the world and she's winning. And she's the kind of person, you could meet Jennifer Aniston in line at the grocery store tomorrow and you're going to be honey. You're going to be sweetie. You're going to be baby. She is going to ask you how you're doing and how your mom's doing. And she's going to genuinely mean that shit. She'll get on the phone with your mom. She'll buy your groceries in line at the store. That's the kind of person that she is. But what happens when she's with a Mars person, maybe like Brad Pitt, that wants to be baby, wants to be sweetie, wants to be honey, wants to know that he is special to this Venus person, right? But she's out here honey, sweetie, babying, and he starts to feel abandoned. And he starts to feel questioning. And I'm not excusing what went on, okay? And so he maybe wants to take a shot because he thinks, oh, you're trying to control me in this situation. And you're trying to let me know that you've got other options. I really don't think that Jennifer Aniston freaking knew that. I really think Jennifer Aniston is a friend, an old friend to every person that she meets in her mind. But she doesn't understand that her Pluto is moving up through it. And it is trying to control the situation, you know, and trying to control people. And like, we can all be friends here. Let's all be sweet here. Like, it is control, you know, but she doesn't understand the way that it's coming across to the Mars person. And she possibly doesn't understand that it's confusing these friend people who are like, I think that you want me. I can see that you want him, but because I can see the Pluto in the situation, maybe do you want me? Like, it's confusing. And so I feel like then this Mars energy wants to pull in another person to just like throw at her head kind of thing. And I know that's a complicated relationship and he was bored and everything, but also I don't like that when people say that they're bored. I think especially Mars energy in a relationship, when they get into a healthy relationship where things are calm, it's not your partner's job to like constantly keep you on your toes, like learn how to get a hobby. So Yeah, and she said that he was missing a sensitivity chip. So do you see what I'm saying with the Venus energy? It's hard for the Venus person, I think, to recognize that their Pluto is actually active in the situation. And what's common with that, with somebody with Venus Pluto like combination there, is that the Venus person often is confused because they kind of think, well, everybody comes at me. I don't know. I just attract people that are like aggressive, or they get obsessed with me, or like something. It's that kind of energy. But it's like, okay, and not to blame this, but it's like, what's the common theme here? So get curious about it. Like, is there anything that you're doing? Is there a way that you're kind of coming across that might be the root cause for people behaving in that way around you, you know? So if you are the Venus person, you're probably like, I don't know, I'm just Susie Cream Cheese all the time. But in the back of your mind, there's this deep fear that it's like, if I'm not Susie Cream Cheese, does my world implode? Do I get ambushed? Do I get attacked? You know? It's probably a sign that you grew up in a very dramatic, very erratic, very aggressive household, and you were always the peacekeeper, but you had the least amount of power in the room. And anytime you tried to assert your power, you felt like you were going to be abandoned, you know? And if I do remember, Jennifer Aniston, I think they all actually had a very, I don't know about Brad Pitt, but I know Jennifer Aniston and Angelina Jolie had like these kind of energies. Oh my gosh, I think I almost described that situation perfectly in Angelina's background. The dad like caused the affair. She hated that guy. Like, anyways, yeah. So there's a deep fear here, and so that's Venus is just desperately trying to like hold on to the control element of like, please don't be mean to me. And then all these people are mean to them. And there's this weird conspiratorial element with the Mars energy as well. Venus is the more social energy. Mars isn't typically very social, but because all these people's Pluto is active, then that Mars energy really flares up. Probably the worst egg in the group is what's kind of flaring things up. There's this conspiratorial element, and then they all bring their big heavy hammer onto the Venus person. And the Venus person is the least, they don't deserve it. Venus has an active Pluto, yes, but you don't know what Venus wants. I keep wanting to say that. You don't know what Venus wants in this situation. And maybe that's what's panicking. That's what's maybe triggering the abandonment for these Mars people, is they don't know what Venus wants. And Venus potentially doesn't know, well, I think Venus, when Mars starts acting, bringing competition in, then Venus doesn't know what Mars wants and who Mars is. So then Venus feels abandoned or rejected. So this is like a layered energy where there's a plutonic energy that's moving through this that everybody can see everybody else's Pluto, but nobody can see their own. Like and that's what Pluto is. It's you have a harder time doing it. So Venus is trying to take right and proper action by not rocking the boat and by just signaling to everyone that they're not fierce. I really do think that Venus has to be like, listen, you bag of assholes, knock it off. You know, like learn to kind of take their power back in this situation and be more assertive. And that might actually like kind of start. It's like nobody wants to rock the boat here in this situation. And it is like everybody's kind of talking past each other because Mars is trying to be strategic and but at the same time, like very daring. Anyways, yeah. So I think I covered the bulk of this, even though I felt like very choppy this entire time. But I think, again, that's like this Pluto energy. And there's people in this situation as well that do benefit from this occurring, and it's because they want something from one of these people, and some of them could be threatened by one of these people, and so it does actually give them a secret kind of pleasure to watch that person get hurt. Empress of Alchemy, thank you so much for the super chat. I adore you. Oh, thank you. These messages, they have helped me along this crazy journey immensely. I'm so glad. Yeah. So I hope this made sense. There's a lot of information here, and it's so hard, I think, to figure out who you are in the situation. It's hard just to navigate that. But then also because Pluto is here, Pluto is the part that you're like, I don't want to admit that I'm that. I don't want to own up to those traits. And I think Venus doesn't want to own up to Mars. Like Venus in this situation, I think also needs to go after what it is that they want. Or learn how to do that, or learn how to assert themselves in the situation. Because I think this might be a situation where Venus is always the one that walks up to the snack table last, you know, like, oh, there are all the different color ring pops. Oh, no, you get your colors and I'll just take whatever's left. Like Venus is very much that kind of person, but with like their partners and with I'll just take the scraps. I don't want to cause any problems. Venus might well be very beautiful as well. But I think Venus is the kind of pretty that is like, wants female friends, doesn't want to be threatening to females. And, you know, so it's very just like, okay, like wants good things for themselves, wants to post up on the top spot, but doesn't want to go after what they want directly. And if they want respect in this situation, they need to go after that directly. If they want a person here, they need to go after that directly. And that would actually clear up a lot. Mars actually has to be more cooperative. More, let's have a conversation. Let's have an exchange. What makes you happy? What makes me happy? And instead of just taking some kind of, and they're trying to cause a crisis because they expect and they feel entitled to Venus going over there and being like, oh my gosh, I know that you just hit me in the face, but like, you seem like you're really struggling. I couldn't help but notice you were having an emotion and it felt like a big one. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no. So, yeah. I do feel the crisis energy actually comes in with the Mars person or the Mars people. Because that's their mechanism. They induce crisis into this situation. And if this really extremely negative person is a feminine, then because Pluto is surgery and Mars is body, so she may alter her body. She wants it to ruffle feathers in some way, or she wants it to be the grenade, like in this situation, kind of a thing, to cause the crisis, possibly in other women. And she wants it to cause a crisis even among men. Yeah. But if it's a man, the man is just straight up dangerous. Probably will end up in jail at some point. And should be. So, okay. I've seen what he does, tries to induce competition, gag me. I think it's repulsive. Yeah. Because you could have been very attracted to this person and then they did that and then you were repulsed by this person. Because you were like, oh, wait, I didn't realize that's what was going on here. Like, that's kind of who you were. And that person doesn't remember that or doesn't know that that has like an effect like that. Because it used to work with their mom, but it doesn't work in this situation. And I think it's the same with Venus. Like, it used to work with their mom, but it doesn't work in this situation because it's not necessarily healthy coping. I hope this makes sense. This was one of the worst readings I think I've ever done, like in terms of coherence. That was like a whole journey. Okay, your twin flame is Mars. He's not really a Mars person, but he's willing to help the crisis, but he won't listen to me for what I want. Yeah. I so resonate with the Venus in this. Yeah, and honestly, there's no guarantees in how this situation is going to play out because I feel like primarily on a spiritual level, what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to trigger everybody's Pluto. So that everybody can be like, whoa, I felt a way I didn't normally feel. I did something I don't normally do. I wonder what that is. And look at that. And for some, bridges have been burned here and people are going to go their own way. Venus, I strongly think, needs to go towards their Mars. They need to go towards being selfish. What is it that you want? You know, being competitive, being skillful, doing schmegs, like with whoever they want. They need to do that. And the Mars person needs to go towards their Venus. What makes other people happy? What makes me happy? How can I be cooperative? How can I have conversations with other people? Going towards art and culture and harmony, you know, things that like bring that about. Even if like this, it might not be possible to work certain things out here. And I think these friends, the people that should be friends, they need to be friends in this situation and accept that that's what they are. And if they can't do that, then I think they need to leave the situation. So, push into your Mars lately. Okay, it makes total sense. Good, I'm glad. Jess, this is fascinating because I'm the Venus energy. I have Venus in the first house, Uttara Ashada. My Pluto is in Libra with Mars. And Pluto, so where Pluto sits in your chart, it might be good to just revisit your Pluto. Just see what it's doing, see where it is. Because wherever Pluto sits, it's like that's the thing that it wants most in the world. So if your Pluto is in Libra, then it's like you want relationship and harmony and peace and balance and conversation and fairness more than anything in the world, right? And it's sitting there with your Mars. So you might want to use, Pluto might be like, well, I can just access Mars right here. Is this the shortcut to getting relationship? And the key is it's not, but it's learning those skills of like, okay, Pluto has to say, I want relationship more than anything. Okay, let me pause, let me reflect. How can I go about doing that? And what is it that I'm afraid of? And it might be afraid of the Mars energy with Mars sitting right there as well. And it might, because Pluto also likes to try to kill things that it's like near. So maybe your Pluto even tries to kill off that Mars impulse and that Mars energy. So, okay. Nice. My manager has a narc mother wound, and I could tell that he was treating me the way he wished his father would have treated her. My Pluto's in Scorpio, 11th house next to my Jupiter. I'm addicted to being alive, so my doctor prescribed me no contact with narcissists for life. Well, nice. The irony is having to be more Martian is that I'm literally a Scorpio rising and an Aries sun. My Mars is in Pisces. I'm so conflicted, avoidant, but I've had to challenge myself to be more in Mars. I feel that same way because I have my moon is in Aries and my Mars is in Cancer. So Aries, it's weird to have the softest part of me in Aries because I actually feel more comfortable when people are themselves and like when I'm cursing and, you know, just being independent and getting to be an individual. But then my Mars, which is like that active principles in the sign of Cancer, that's like, maybe we should all get along. And I just have those energies like completely switched in myself. And it's also weird because when I feel comfortable, I like curse like a sailor. But when I'm not comfortable, that's when I get like quiet and weird and like closed in on myself. And it's just like, I don't know. It's exactly, I don't know. Recommendations for astrology stuff like this, in-depth shenanigans. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Jewel. I like Jewel on the YouTube. There's so many people. Kamala Sutton. Claire Nocti. I don't know. Astrology has just been kind of a free-for-all for me. Just anything I can kind of get my hands on. Gemini Mars here. Oh no, Jess. Same. It's my favorite Mars sign. We love when you curse like a sailor. Oh, thank you, Beth. Or maybe you can post a Patreon. Oh, yeah. I've stepped into my Mars more and more since this encounter. Yeah. And I think you'll like yourself more. And the Venus person, I think, might be scared of abandonment if they step into their Mars and they're like, no, don't talk to me like that. Don't treat me like that. If you are going to have other bitches in our relationship, there will be no relationship. Like, you know, just asserting yourself and just like, you'll like yourself more and we will feel less anxious and you'll feel like less kind of swept around because that's what your Pluto is scared of. Your Pluto is scared of the abandonment because it tells you like, if I'm that person, then I'm just going to be abandoned. And then I'm going to be in a free-for-all of chaotic madness. And I don't want that. So it's this very delicate balance, you know, but actually the opposite is true because frankly, if those kind of people are around you, they're drawn in and you kind of are maintaining that with your Venus. But if you state a boundary and people are going to freak out over that, good riddance. And the sooner you can do that in your life, I feel like the better because then when you build, the people that are actually around you are the kind of people that you don't have to do that to. And then your healing can get a lot easier. And Mars, think about it. This Mars person that wants to cause a crisis so that people come running to them, the only people that are going to come running to them are people like that want something from them. You know, people that are not well adjusted. So think about the kind of people that this Mars energy is going to have around them, if they have people around them at all, because they're using pretty lethal force. And some of them might direct that inward and some of them might direct it outwards. But it's this constant crisis, you know, energy in lieu of having a conversation kind of thing. So Venus had to be the adult and face both the ones and the friends discuss what he had done wrong with the Venus was with Libra. Can we do this every day, Jess? My Mars is in the 12th house, so it's very subdued. And I do have 5 planets in Libra. Just talked about this in therapy today, literally. I can be a friend. I couldn't before, but I'm good. Yeah, see? And now you can't unsee it, right? And it's not that they can't be a friend. Like, I think these people are good friends. But then it's like, okay, well, now they found somebody that's attracted to them. And it's like, whoa, like a person like you is talking to a person like me. And then that's what's kind of getting them twisted up in their mind. And I think it's just bringing up that maybe they feel awkward sometimes and that they actually can become their own gravity in this situation. Instead of trying to attach themselves to somebody else that they feel like gets attention or is seen in a certain way yeah. Just realized my dad does that a lot. Creates crisis to fix things. Okay, yeah. But there's strong, the last thing, like this is kind of what sparked this all for me. Is like this, look at this, these 2 major arcana cards, this Leo energy and the Mars energy, like there's strong tower energy here. So here, in the original situation, it was just this strong kind of feeling. But again, it's coming up through Pluto. So it's like, I don't recognize this and because it's coming up through these other energies. Okay, so this is also maybe important because it's coming up through these other energies. The Venus person, again, because they associate love with crisis. So something happened and they were like, you know, is this love? Is it love? Or just a curse? Do you feel good when I hurt? Yeah. Trauma bond. If this love's not real, then it's just my luck. Yeah. So, and both these people associate trauma with love. You know what's weird for the Mars person is that this is, okay. They might get weirdly turned on when the Venus person is like attacked. Or like hurt. And then it's like, they want to maybe save this person. It's like, come get me. Maybe okay, this is dark. But I feel like maybe they did know that somebody here was going to like hurt this person, or was like trying to take shots at this person, and they like sat back to let it happen because they were like, oh, they're going to run to me. They had a crisis. And whenever I have crisis, I run to my mommy. And I'm about to be mommy with this rose in my mouth. Ugh. And they were just waiting for this person. It's dark. And somebody here is up in their head about it, because this came out too. They're up in their head about it. And now they're like, oh my gosh, like kind of going back and forth, all these thoughts in their head. Because it's like this new way of looking at it. So that's the Tower moment. So this is like what we call a healing crisis. If you feel triggered by this, or for some of you, there's an incoming from somewhere, I don't know, in your life, something that you may hear or something. And it's meant to trigger your Pluto, but they're saying like, because it's going to trigger up whatever your like response thing is. But it's meant for you to be able to look at this clearly and to fix this. And you may, because the feelings were so strong in this, you may look back on this and be like, why did this happen? Like, this was just cruel, you know? And yeah, I feel like it is, because I've seen this in my head before where I just see somebody taking a bat and kind of like whacking the Pluto of somebody, like a piñata, you know? And it's kind of a weird way of alerting your attention to the Pluto. And it's hard to alert your attention to Pluto. It just is. It's always going to be some kind of like extreme energy, or like proper timing when Pluto is just like kind of surfacing. It's always going to be that, because Pluto likes to be hidden. It doesn't like to be seen. It's constantly trying to evade you, you know? And so if you think you're seeing your Pluto and you feel calm about it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's just my Pluto, and you're not like, is that me? It's probably not your Pluto. If you're totally calm, it might not be your Pluto. So again, it's just a normal part of human behavior. But there is a group here, this Mars group, where it's like, that's not normal human behavior. This like level of violence or this level of physicality towards somebody is not normal. There is that fourth kind of crew over here. So, so the abuser and the manipulator was scared in my territory due to how calm I was for almost a year without ever yelling, and I had to defend myself after being abused all my life. Wasn't anything new. That also might be another thing here, where they feel scared in the Venus's person's presence because they're not reacting. That also could be bringing up their fear, because they know, yeah, okay, so if this was like an actual like abuser, like a rotten egg, or yeah, like if they did something here and then the Venus person was like totally calm, because that's their way of like responding to crisis. That's their way of trying to diffuse this situation and maintain control over the situation. But it is brave a little bit in the Venus person, but it's also a trauma response for them to just be like, okay, come here. Like, you know, I think it actually did freak somebody out. So if there was another Tower moment, that's probably why. Yeah, there's a lot of confusing stuff that could have happened here where you were just like, what? Anyway. Yes, Pluto is so intense. The Mars-Pluto opposition a few weeks ago, I had a whole anxiety attack because I was suppressing my anger. Yeah. Venus in Cancer here. The Mars person is Venus. Mars conjunct in Gemini. Yeah. I don't know who the heck I am, because he lies about everything, but I can feel he's hiding everything from me because that's what he does. It's been so confusing now that I just went out of his circus. Yeah. I thought it was cruel too. And it is. Like, there is cruelty here. Nature is red with tooth and claw. Like, there is a cruelty level here, and just an extremity of like emotional violence, physical violence. Like with the Mars, it's like very physical. And they feel triggered by the Venus person because they think that the Venus person uses their Venus energy to get what they want. But they misunderstand what the Venus person wants. And they need to have a conversation with the Venus person in order to understand what they want. Because this Venus person isn't like other Venus people. If that Pluto energy is coming up, it's not just expressing itself freely. It's controlled. It's protected. It is strategic. And I think mostly Venus just wants to keep the balance and to convince other people to kill off that Mars energy. I just keep hearing that you don't know what they want. Okay. I read birth charts, but I don't do it professionally. I thought that I was going to at one point, but too bad most won't have those conversations. Yeah. Every time I went towards schmegdual things, I got consequences, though. It's my Mars I do not understand. Yeah, and the Venus might not understand their own Mars. Or their own Pluto, because Pluto rules over schmegs too. I thought he was my twin flame, but now I kind of hope not. That's the Pluto energy of like, once you address the Pluto and you kind of understand what's going on here. But also for some of you, it's like, you might think like, wow, this is an extremely cruel person. The other thing that came through that I felt kind of checked by is that it's not a place of morals and virtues. And if you watch me, you know, like I get confronted by this Mars kind of behavior that I feel is over the top or like uncivilized, especially towards a Venus person. And I start to get heated. And that's when I start to say things like sprout a moral, grow a virtue. But this really is like, it's coming in, that's such a conscious space in a person. And this is coming in like right below that. So it feels like in this pain, and I'm not making an excuse, but I think for some of you, it's like, maybe this is a strong soulmate. Maybe they do actually love you. They just don't know how to act right because this is like constant trauma space, you know? So not all bad is bad. Meant to happen to cause awakenings. Exactly. Yeah. I respond calmly too. I don't know what they want. Mars lady wants children. He is a player and doesn't. They are staying together. Well, I imagine one of their Plutos is going to get really rocked. All right. Well, I think that's all I had for this. Sorry if this was hard to follow or incoherent. I know you guys are telling me that you liked it and that you did understand. And if you're in this energy, that's par for the course with Pluto. Just keep in mind that's par for the course with Pluto. And when you know better, you do better. And just to take some time, now's a really good time to do shadow work. It might even be a good idea to look up shadow work, like what is shadow work or what are shadow work exercises, even if you already do your shadow work and you know what it is, just to get another idea. So maybe you can come at it from a different angle than you're used to, because I feel like this would be really productive here at this time, because it's like, you know that your Pluto and everybody else's Pluto is active here. And I just want to reiterate that I know like a lot of times in my readings, it'll be like, this is a very manipulative energy that's coming through. And it's because that's what Pluto is in all of us. It is a manipulative energy. It is a very strategic energy. So it's very different seeing that energy in a person come up in a situation. And this would be a very impactful situation versus, okay, that's this person's entire personality. So even if you're seeing manipulative traits and qualities, it's like, is this a long-term pattern over an extended period of time? You know, do you have enough information to judge that, you know? Okay, yeah. Been doing the shadow work nonstop since I quit this job. I'm wonderful now. Yeah. And I think that's ultimately, if this situation is going to be resolved within this group, which it's not. For a lot of you, I feel like it might not. Like this group might well break apart and fuse with other groups that are better able to reflect back like these energies, and like where the group has like the strength in numbers on its side, you know, to say like, well, we don't do that here, you know, or, you know, whatever. And everybody would probably go where they need to go. That's a possibility. I feel like this is done though. This karmic situation has been broken. I do feel like it's because this, somebody here has like recognized themselves. It could be the Mars person, but I think it's the Venus person, like just leaving, because the Venus person was like, well, we all have a Pluto and they're trying to be fair and balanced. But I think the Venus person had to be like, okay, yeah, we all have fears, but like that level of retaliation when you should just be having a conversation with me, I don't deserve that. I don't deserve that. And I'm scared to be around it for good reason, you know, and I'm not your punching bag kind of a thing. But if this situation is going to work out in the future, the health, the quality of everybody's Pluto, it's got to go way, way up, which means you got to purge stuff from there. You got to empty stuff out and integrate stuff into the personality so it's much healthier, because the healthier the Pluto is, next time this happens, it's going to go differently. Okay. Venus person stuck with a baby with a Mars person. Yeah, that's the Mars person inducing a crisis over here in Venus and being like, don't you love me? My mom always loves it when I start a crisis. And Venus is like, I once again feel attacked by you and need to take my leave, but I guess that won't be happening for 18 years, you know? Oh, sorry.
I believe this is the issue.
Oh.
Yeah. They can still hear you.
They can still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh.
The video feed is just...
You swim in chaos too. Pluto goes into Aquarius for the next 20 years tomorrow. That, I don't know why that just filled me with fear. Just because I feel like what I want is a more Aquarian world more than anything. And I know that we have to like unearth certain things to get that. But, all right. Ooh. Well, I think I'm about to wrap this up anyway. Well, you're just welcome, Beth. And thank you guys for being here, and thank you guys for showing up, and I hope that made sense. And sometimes when I feel like I don't make sense, I drag these live streams out long for no reason. So, verbally aggressive, I got a mouth on me, but everything I say is true. It's so frustrating to have someone say they love you, yet every day they hurt you and act dumb about it. Yeah, I'm sure. Longer, please. I'm gonna wait till my face is unfrozen just so that we can say goodbye properly.
I'm not sure we will be able to. Here, give me just a moment.
Oh, okay.
They can hear you now, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get this fixed.
Okay, well, we can just leave then. Okay, I think we're gonna go. Can you guys hear me?
They can hear you.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming, and thanks for being my people, and I hope you have a lovely day. All right. Bye, guys.